Hello everybody, today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the Fake Voices app for MIT App Inventor. And before we get started with the tutorial, I'm going to show you what the app looks like and how it works. So here I have the app on my screen, and what it does is it has a say something button, and when you click it, it's going to recognize your speech so you can say anything you want to your device. It's then going to paste whatever you said into this text box, and then you're able to change the pitch and the rate of your text to speech. And once you hear the read the words back button, it's going to read the words back to you in the pitch and the rate that you choose. So let me demonstrate that real quick. It was really nice to meet you today. As you can see, my text was pasted in this text box, and let's just do the hear the words read back in the normal rate and the normal pitch.
It was really nice to meet you today.
And let's see what happens if I make the pitch really high.
It was really nice to meet you today.
And if the pitch is really high and the rate is really fast,
it was really nice to meet you today.
That's what it sounds like. And what about the opposite, where the pitch is really low?
It was really nice to meet you today.
And if the pitch is really low and the rate is really low,
it was really nice to meet you today.
You can see that that's really slow, and if we want to do it a little faster, we can also do that.
It was really nice to meet you today.
So we're able to play around with the pitch and the rate, and then the device is just going to read the words back to us in the pitch and the rate that we select. And that is our app, so let's get started in building it. So to begin building our app, we want to navigate over to the Create App section of MIT App Inventor, which should look like what I have on the screen. And before we get started, we want to make sure we're using the correct interface, and to do so, we're going to click on Settings, User Interface Settings. You want to make sure that Neo is selected, and then click OK. And to create a new project, we're going to press this New Project button, and we're just going to name this Fake Voices app. Just like this, and press OK. And then it should bring you over to this screen here where you can see your device and the components on the left-hand side. So before we add any components on our screen, I want to change the background color of my screen, and to do so, I'm going to navigate over to Screen 1. I'm going to go over to Background Color, click on this box, and I want my background to be dark gray. So this is what it's going to look like. And so the first component that I want to put onto the screen is going to be a spacer. And this is just to put some space between the top of the screen and then any other components that I will have. And the spacer is going to be over in Layout. I'm going to put this horizontal arrangement and make it on my screen right here. And then I'm going to rename this, so make sure this is selected, click rename, and I'm just going to put spacer in the front of this, just like this, and click OK. And it should be renamed, as you can see right here. And I'm going to edit some of its components. So for the background color, I'm going to make it dark gray. The height, I'm going to make it about 5%. Like that. And then for the width, I want it to fill parent. And it should look like this. And now I'm going to add another horizontal arrangement right under that. But this one, it's going to hold a button. So I'm going to rename this to Say Something Button horizontal arrangement. So I'm going to leave what is currently there, but then at the very front, I'm going to add Say Something Button and click OK. And as you can see, it was renamed here. And then I'm going to just change some of it. So the background color, I want it to be dark gray. The height, I'm going to make it about 10%. And then the width, I'm going to also have it fill parent. And then since this is the Say Something Button horizontal arrangement, I'm going to want to put a button inside of this. So we're going to go over to the left, grab this button, make sure that it's like inside of this horizontal arrangement, and you can see that it is indicated by that blue line you see on the left. And then when you plop it in, it should be inside there. Then I'm going to rename this button, and I'm going to rename it to Say Something Button, and click OK. And then I'm just going to change some of its components. So the background color of it, I'm going to make it red. And then I'm going to make the shape rounded. And for the text, it's going to be Say Something, exclamation point, just like that. And then I'm going to navigate over to the text color. I want it to be white. And the font is a little small, so I'm going to change the font size to 24, just like that. And I don't like how the button is on the left side of the horizontal arrangement. I really want it to be centered in the middle. And to do so, we're going to navigate over to the Say Something Button horizontal arrangement. And then for Align Horizontal, I'm just going to make it centered. So it should look like this. And then next I'm going to add another spacer to put some space between my other components. So I'm going to go over to the left, drag in another horizontal arrangement. I'm going to rename this one to also spacer horizontal arrangement. So at the beginning, I'm going to put that spacer. And then since we already have one named spacer, we're going to have to make this at the very end. Instead of a 1, we're going to make it a 2. Because if you try to rename it with the same name of a different component, it's going to give you an error. And we're going to click OK. And then for the components, I'm going to make the background color of this dark gray. The height of it, I'm going to make it about 2%. And then the width, I'm going to have it fill parent. So this is what our screen should look like now. And then we want to add in a text box so that once we say something that it can be pasted into a text box. So we're going to drag in a text box right under, just like that. And we're going to rename this to speech text box. So speech text box, just like that, and click OK. And then the background color of this, I want it to be orange. And then I want the font size to be a little bigger, so I'm going to make it 24. And then for the height, I'm going to make it about 20% of the screen. Click OK. Width, I want it to fill parent. And then I'm going to navigate down to the bottom and make sure that multi-line is selected. So if I say something that's really long or say a lot of things, that it won't cut off the screen and it'll keep it within the text box. And then now I'm going to add another spacer. So I'm going to navigate over to the components, drag in this horizontal arrangement. Also going to want to rename this. And again, we're going to add to the very front spacer. And since we already had spacer 1 and spacer 2, we want to make this one spacer 3. So just add that 3 at the end and click OK. And then for the components, I'm going to change this background color also to dark gray. The height, I'm going to make it maybe 7%. And the width, I want it to fill parent. And so this is what our screen should look like now. And then now we want to add in the button where we can hear the words read back to us. So navigate over to the left at the very top. I'm going to drag this button down here. And I'm going to rename this button to Hear the Words button. The Words button. Just like that. Click OK. And then the background color, I'm going to make it match the first button. So I'm going to make it red. Again, the font size, I'm going to make it 24. And then for the shape, I want it to be rounded. The text, I'm going to make it say, hear the words read back. And I don't need to capitalize the. So I'm going to just enter that. So that should be your text, hear the words read back. And then the text color, I'm going to make white. And again, I don't really like how the button is kind of like on the left of the screen. I really want it to be centered on the screen. And to fix that, I'm going to go over to screen 1, make sure that's selected, and then align horizontal, I'm going to make it center. And the button should be centered as we like it. And so now we have finished our Say Something button, the text box that the what we say is going to be pasted into, and the Hear the Words Read Back button. And now we want to do the pitch and the rate sliders. And so for the pitch, we're going to add in a label first. So drop this label down here, and I'm going to rename this to pitch label. Should look like that, and click OK. And then for the font size, I'm going to make it 24 just so I can see it better. And then for the text, it's going to be change the pitch, just like that. And then I'm going to make the text color white. So that's what it should look like. And now we want to actually add in the slider that allows you to choose where you want the pitch to be. So on the left hand side, we're just going to drag in the slider down here. And then we're going to rename this component to pitch slider, like this, and click OK. I'm going to change the components of the pitch slider. So I'm going to have the width fill parent. And then for the max value, this is really important. We're going to change that one to 2. And for the min value, we're going to change it to 0. And then we want the thumb position to be in the middle of those numbers. So we're going to have the thumb position be 1, just like that. And now we want to do the same thing with the rate. So let's add in a label under here. We're going to rename this to rate label, just like that. We're going to have the font size be 24. And then the text is going to be change the rate, like that. And then the text color, I'm going to make it white, just like that. And then once again, we're going to want to add in the slider for the rate. So add in the slider down here at the end, rename this to rate slider, press OK. And then we're going to change the width to fill parent. Max value, it's also going to be 2. Min value will be 0. And the thumb position will be in the middle at 1. And then now these are all the visible components that we need. But since when we press Say Something, we want the device to recognize what we say, we need to add in a speech recognizer. And that's going to be down in Media, Speech Recognizer. Just make sure to hover it over the screen, and it should pop down here in the non-visible components. And then we also want, when we press the Hear the Words Read Back button, for the device to say it back to us. So we want to add in a text-to-speech, make sure it's over the screen, and that it shows up at the bottom. So these are all the visible and non-visible components that we will need for our app. And so let's move on to the blocks side of the app by navigating over to the top right, clicking on blocks. So this is what we're going to see. We're going to have an empty block screen. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to recognize when the user clicks the Say Something button. So on the left hand side, we're going to go down into the Say Something button and drag in this when Say Something button dot click. And so when the user clicks that button, we want to recognize what they say. So we're going to call on the speech recognizer. So navigate down to speech recognizer and call speech recognizer.getText. And then once we are done recognizing that speech, we want to put it in the text box. So to do so, we're going to click on speech recognizer 1, and then when speech recognizer 1 dot after getting text. This is what it should look like. We want to go to the speech text box, set that speech text box text, which is going to be this block, to, and then hover over to the result and get result. So this is just going to paste whatever the user says into that text box. And now we want to add in what happens when the user clicks on the Hear the Words Read Back button. So we're going to go to the Hear the Words button up to the top and drag in this when Hear the Words button dot click. And when that person clicks that button, we want to set the pitch as well as the rate to whatever the user has set it to with the slider. And to do so, we're going to go over to the text-to-speech, and we're going to navigate down to the Set Text-to-Speech Pitch, drag in this block, and then go over to Pitch Slider, and we're going to get Pitch Slider Thumb Position. So it's going to be this one, and just pop that in here. And we want to do the same thing with the rates. So we're going to go over to the text-to-speech and set text-to-speech speech rate to rate slider and rate slider dot thumb position. This is what it should look like. And now we want to actually call the text-to-speech. So go to text-to-speech and call text-to-speech.speak message. And the message that we want to speak is going to be whatever the text is in the speech text box. So now you over to speech text box, and we're going to go down to speech text box.text. And so let's just make sure that we have everything. So let's go back to designer. And so we've got when the say something button is clicked, the speech recognizer will come up, the user will say whatever they need to say, then it will be pasted into this text box. And then when the user clicks this Hear the Words Read Back button, it's going to change the text-to-speech pitch to wherever that slider is, and it's going to change the rate to wherever the rate slider is, and then it's going to call the text-to-speech and actually say the words back to the user. So that's all we need for our app, and now we can connect it to our device by downloading the MIT AI Companion app and then connecting it by going to Connect, click on AI Companion, and then in the app you can scan the QR code. I'm just going to do that on my device real quick and pull up the app that we have created. So this is the final app that we created, and I'm just going to demonstrate it. So I'm going to say something. Hello, it was really nice meeting you today. And as you can see, it pasted what I said into this text box. And let's hear the words in a normal pitch and rate.
Hello, it was really nice meeting you today.
And then we can just change it if we want.
Hello, it was really nice meeting you today. Hello, it was really nice meeting you today.
And yeah, and you can just play around with.
Hello, it was really nice meeting you today.
And that is the app that we have created. I hope you had such a fun time building it. And now we can think of ways that we can expand our app. So one idea is just to make the app a little user-friendly. So you can play around with maybe having a background image or the colors of certain things, making the text bigger or the font more attractive, just things to make the app overall better for users. Another idea is to, instead of just having the slider, you can also have a numerical representation of where your pitch and your rate is at by getting that position and showing where you're adjusting it to. And then a final idea that we had is maybe you can tie in what we did for the translation app and have this fake voices accommodate other languages. So if you wanted to speak to it in Spanish or in French or any other language, how would you edit your app to do so? And we can also, if we do that, think about the text-to-speech like we did in the translation app, making the code a different country code so that it's able to have that accent for the language that you're adjusting it to. And then a final remark is that we're developing better and stronger apps, and you're becoming a better coder in general. And we really want you to think about using your skills ethically and responsibly. So with the Fake Voices app, we don't want you to use this in any negative way. We don't want you to try to use it to scare people or to pretend to be someone that you're not. We really want to make sure that when we're building apps that we think about how we can use it for the better and how we can use it as a tool and not in any negative way. But thank you for watching, and I hope you had such a fun time building this app.